Dear Mama, motherhood is not the graveyard of dreams. Motherhood is an opportunity to expand, to dive deeper into your creativity, to be inspired, and to be imaginative. We believe that imagination and creativity are tools that helped our ancestors survive and create a culture that continues to evolve, which is why we created Black Mama Creative Week, a series of digital events, June 24th through June 30th, celebrating the ingenuity and innovation of Black motherhood, and to inspire Black mamas to manifest their desires and live their wildest dreams. In this episode, we take a look back at episode 15, which is one of our favorite things to do, is to take a look back at episodes. This was our very first Black Mama Creative episode and the episode that inspired Black Mama Creative Week. And we have a candid conversation about fear and failure, and discuss what we have manifested since then, how we have evolved, and the impact of our friendships, family, and spiritual practices. As always, thank you so much for rocking with us. Don't just listen, subscribe, and follow us on all social media platforms at Dim Black Mamas Podcast so you won't miss a moment of the magic. Please keep emailing us, keep engaging with us through social media comments, your reviews, and SoundCloud comments. Keep sharing us, even if it's only with one other person. We appreciate it. If you're a new listener, welcome to the ride. If you're a newbie or an OG, become a magic maker by joining our email list. And invest in us by purchasing a Magic Evermore box. Now more than ever, Black women, Black mamas are embracing our magic. And so we created this box to help you alchemize that energy. The items inside include a full Black Mama Magic card deck, incense from Smell Good Spa, a Magic Evermore picture frame, 4 manifestation crystals, Black Mama Magic postcards, gratitude jar, the herbs, jasmine, eucalyptus, and lavender, which represent healing, creativity, and liberation. And the best part of purchasing a Magic Evermore box is you're investing in yourself and you're investing in us, Dim Black Mamas. And when you invest in us, you're investing in a platform curated by 3 Black women actively creating spaces of healing, creativity, and liberation. Links to purchase the Magic Evermore box and to join our email list are in our show notes on our website at dimblackmamas.com. That's DEM Black Mamas, MAMAS.com. Now, let's get free, y'all, and jump into episode 46 of
Dim Black Mamas.
Everybody, the mothership has landed with your guides. I am Crystal Tennille Irby, mother of 4.
And I am Thea Monnier, mother of 3.
And I am Nikisha Killings, also mother of 4.
Nikisha is eating, so we may have to pause before her answers.
You have to tell the people.
Who done brought you what today? Because you always got a little elf that walks in there and brings you a plate.
What is on the plate?
Arya brought me grilled cheese and chips. Bless her heart.
Well, look at that. That is quite a combination. You might need a green smoothie afterwards, but it's a great.
I'm gonna need no sodium for the rest of the weekend.
Might need a green smoothie. Get that shit down, but that sounds amazing.
I didn't mention the brownie for dessert on the side.
Okay, there we go.
Dessert at lunchtime?
They're allowed dessert only at lunch, so they don't go to bed with all that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a parenting reflective moment, Crystal. I just saw you do a little reflection.
I do an 8 o'clock snack, but now I'm going to do lunchtime dessert. Got you, Keish. Again, the mothership has landed. We now have a newsletter and it's called The Mothership. So if you want to ride, if you want to get on board, make sure you sign up for our email list because it's going to be a good time.
Don't miss the ship.
Don't miss the ship.
Don't miss the ship.
I guess we could just jump right into it. So this
Let's go.
episode, we're going to start out with our responsive reading. Then we'll roll into our mac and cheese. And I always love to do this time for our mac and cheese, because this is the first episode in the month of June, which we have Black Mama Creative Week this month, the last 7 days of the month. And so in this episode, we are going to look back at episode 15, which was our first Black Mama Creative episode. Every year after, we've done a Black Mama Creative episode, but this was our first. So we're taking a look back at that episode, and we hadn't done a Black Mama Creative Week when we recorded that episode. So we're always excited to look back at episodes and just see where we are, what we were talking about, and where we are now. So that's very exciting. And that's episode 15. So if you haven't listened to that episode, you might want to listen to that episode first before you listen to this episode. So you just might want to pause right here, go listen to that episode, and then come back and listen to this episode. So let's get started with our responsive reading. Does anybody else want to pull a card? I can pull one.
Mine are at the altar, and I got this 40-year-old body in this position. I don't think I'm getting it out.
Thea has a banging 40-year-old body, so
Thank you so much. But you know, I've been gardening.
Okay, but it's not because you're 40. It's because you've been gardening,
right?
boo.
Let me just take a moment to be real with people. There was a moment in my early 30s where my husband and his daughter were playing with water guns in the house, and I slipped. And when I fell, it was the first time in my life that I realized, oh, bitch, this was a different kind of fall. Right? Like,
was it the fall or was it the get up?
I realized while falling. So that's like in slow motion,
mid-fall.
Yeah, when you get older, you see it in slow motion.
But this is the part.
Yeah,
what I knew when I hit the ground was the bounce back wasn't going to be like it was in my 20s. That's what I'm saying. Right?
Yeah.
So there's been situations since I turned 40 where I would be like, normally, I could drink that or I could do this workout this way.
You
and
used
like,
to could.
be good.
Could.
It took me a couple months after turning 40 to realize like the recovery process is a little bit different. You have to really cushion your time with the recovery process. You have to give yourself a little cushion time.
It's a different level of investment.
It is. And awareness about the investment. Like, I could get away with, a slip up with dairy here and there in my 30s. In my 40s, it's like,
no, it arrests different.
It arrests you.
Yes.
It hits different.
Yes.
It hits different.
Yeah, I don't know if that's you turning 40 or if it's your ascension over the last couple of years. Because I do feel the closer you get
blocks
to
the Lord.
Right. The closer you get to your divinity, you have to release that dairy.
Listen, I'm going to go on record and say, I think it's harder to hear God with dairy in your system.
Thea's theories.
I must be so far. But
think about it.
This grilled cheese is hitting right now. That's all I'm saying.
But okay, let's say after the grilled cheese hits, right? Think about the
later.
20 minutes after the grilled cheese. Will you be remotely in a position to think about
I think it
praise
depends.
and worship?
I think if you're born and raised in the South.
Good point.
You always say this, and this is true.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
No, you're right. Because when I go down there, I literally bitch can't hang, and I didn't want to admit that. But when y'all was on them, what was them boot on balls?
She ain't got the Constitution.
I do not.
No.
She got a Constitution. So I feel
like that bitch up because I'm black and he black to my soul. It hurts me that there's another type of black out there that I don't quite fit.
Let me tell you, you turned yourself inside out at 40. So I don't think that it's because you're 40.
But it is also the LA thing, because when we was in Texas, that's when it was clear to me. It took me 3 days to eat turkey leg hut.
She was eating kitty portions.
I could not get through them boudin balls. Yes. I had one and I felt like my heart stopped.
Yeah, I love you dearly. I do. I love you from the bottom of my soul and the depths of my heart. But every time I'm at your house and you fix my plate, I'd be like,
And
be
you look
like,
at it like,
I'm
what
a
is
grown woman.
But you know,
Oh.
Mark
She
says that too.
fixes kitty portions. And she's like, no, that's the right portion size.
I mean,
Right,
I know
bitch.
Mark says that too. Mark will be like, he'll pull me to the side. Can you let Talani know I'm a grown man and maybe put some more potatoes on this
Girl.
plate?
And then she's shocked. She's like, that's not enough. No, I need more than a spoonful. And when I
It's
say
not
a
even
spoonful,
a spoonful. Chris,
y'all,
don't say that.
and when
It's not a spoonful.
Thea, when I
But
say
I don't even know what proper portions are.
Why are
I
you
just feel
rationing
like,
the food?
okay, y'all know like the serving spoon, right? At
right.
Thea's house, you're only gonna get one serving spoon. And let me tell you, it's not like the serving spoon has a lot on it. You know, like you pick up a lot. No, she picks
It's
it
not
up.
heaping.
No,
Not a heaping
it's not heaping.
Okay.
She picks it up and then she shakes off the overflow so that it's evened out.
Lord. That's a sermon right there. Don't shake off your overflow.
I
Don't
go
do
by
it.
what I think I can finish. Don't
That
shake
should
off
be-
the overflow.
That should have been a
Listen
Black Mama magic card. Don't
It
shake
should
off
have
your
been.
overflow.
Here's the thing. I think like in terms of like you could always go back and get more if you're
Okay.
still hungry.
You don't want to do that at other people's house, so you don't want to be like,
You don't want to do that.
Can I get some more? Second.
But then what if I get full and I waste it? I don't want to waste
No,
it.
that's not going to happen at a Southern house.
What will happen if I get
What
full?
happens is if you get full, you push
Somebody
your
else will
plate,
finish it?
you push your plate, you get some foil, and you come back to it at another time in the day, right before you go to bed. I don't know.
Right before
But
you go
I'm
to bed?
Don't judge it. It's the South. It's a lot going on down here. Don't judge people in the South who go back and eat their food.
No, I think that's a good thing.
Waste not, want not. We don't waste.
We don't really end up with a lot of leftovers and people don't end up eating the leftovers. So I think I have learned to just cook what will actually be eaten.
Thea, I knew you
This is true.
when your babies was young. When we were living together and you fixed my plate and you gave me one chicken leg.
I
And so I
remember
was
that.
like, can I get another chicken leg?
Now you're feeling greedy, right? Like nobody else.
Yes, because
Everybody just
everybody
eats one
else just had one. And that's when I knew I was from the South.
I will also say this is partly when you're trying to eat healthy on a budget. This happens now. In the South, you could throw together a big thing of mac and cheese or a big thing of potatoes or a
Right.
big thing of rice. But out here, that's a lot. That's heavy. It's hard to explain because out here, those foods feel heavier.
Let me tell you what it is. This is what it is. Let me just break something down for y'all right quick, okay? In the South, I firmly believe COVID was worse out here, and I feel like it's mutated because of white supremacy. I feel like anything that comes to the South, it mutates because it's white supremacy. And so we have to get that heaviness.
You need that weight on it.
I need
Out here,
that
girl, we be with
weight
the
on it.
sunshine and the
Y'all
beach.
ain't gotta have that.
So we be off the fruits and veggies, you got to make them stretch.
We are like, I need some fruits and veggies, but I need something to push down the fact that I drove by 10 Confederate flags on my way here. Can I get something to push that down?
Listen.
I do feed people properly, though. You will digest here. I'll
Yeah,
tell you, that.
you will. But
I'll
I'm
give you
just
some ginger
saying,
tea afterwards.
if you're from the South, if you eat at Thea's house,
I will take that into consideration. No, I would just make bigger portions then.
she'll be like, where you from? No, I mean, originally, where you from?
But also, like, I always have like fruits and veggies. That's the other thing. Like snacks in my house are fruits and veggies, or like something to drink is like water.
Yeah,
And people like, you ain't got no pop.
No.
Yeah, I only have water.
We only have water too.
But that's not common in the South. Because when my family comes to my house, they're like, you ain't got nothing to drink. I'm like, I got water. They were like, you don't have nothing to drink?
No, you have
just
nothing to drink.
said I have water. All right, here we go. So let's choose. Okay, this is coming from the Black Mama Magic card deck. We're going to do our responsive reading. And here we go. Oh, let's
The cards
go.
be knowing. The cards be knowing.
This is perfect for this episode. This is coming from the book of Nikisha.
Uh-oh.
The book
Your
of
cards get
Nikisha.
picked a lot.
Here we go.
Yes.
Today's responsive reading from the book of Nikisha reads, Fuck fear.
Oh.
An affirmation.
True.
Ooh, dear mama, fear is a liar, a low down, dirty dog liar. It'll have you thinking you have been forgotten or passed over or have missed your moment. Fear will tell you that being a mama stops you from being anything else. You know the truth. Truth is abiding deep within your bones and spilling out of your pores. Truth is bursting through in your dreams and being whispered by ancestors into your spirit. Fuck fear. He's been living here rent-free for too long. It's time for him to go. You know what I appreciate, Nikisha? The gender you put on fear was male. Thanks, boo.
Hey, listen. As I was listening to that, first of all, I was like, that's good shit. Second of all, I was like, I didn't write that. I didn't write that at all. Sometimes it just come through me. It just I don't know, somebody needed to hear that, and it came on through me.
It's beautiful. And that's from our Black Mama Magic card deck. In our Magic Evermore box, you can get a full deck, which to my co-hosts, I got to give y'all credit. Y'all did come through. We did our thing. Y'all did come through again. I got to give y'all credit. Some folks was a little late, but
I don't know
when they did come through, they came all the way through.
Won't he do it?
What?
May not come when you want it.
Be here right on time.
There right on time.
All right. So make sure that you are not just listening, that you're subscribed, that you share the podcast with at least one person that you feel could benefit from listening to us. That's another way of investing in us. And follow us on social media on all platforms at Dem Black Mamas Podcast. So let's roll into our mac and cheese.
Let's do it.
So for this episode, we are revisiting episode 15, our first Black Mama Creative episode, in anticipation of Black Mama Creative Week, which takes place the last 7 days of the month, June 24th through June 30th. We wanted to revisit this episode. Part of it is because we've noticed that we really manifest things on this podcast. And when we go back, we always are like blown away by what we figure out that we've literally spoken to existence or we're dealing with and conquer. It's actually like a journal, like going back through your journal entries to go back to the episodes for us. Thinking of all the things you listed you were doing in that episode, what did you imagine you'd be doing now? And how do you feel about where you are creatively? So Crystal was producer of this podcast, writer, director, working with Speaking Down Barriers to facilitate Healing Us, which is an autonomous space for Black people to explore healing from racialized trauma, interracial trauma, and imagining a new world. She was also working on her certification to become a doula and getting certified in Reiki.
And the thing I left out there is I was also doing Writers Well. I was director of Writers Well. Yeah.
Thinking of all the things you listed you were doing in that episode, what did you imagine you would be doing now? And how do you feel about where you are creatively?
No, I did not think that I would be doing what I'm doing now. I thought that I would be in a completely different space. I thought that I would have more television scripts done. I thought that DBM would probably be coming to an end. I thought I would be transitioning out of Writers Well. I am not where I thought I would be. And it's been just very, honestly, difficult to reconcile. And so last July, maybe, I was really in a really, really hard space where I wanted to give it all up because I didn't see the outcomes that I thought proved that I'm doing this healing work, I'm doing this creative work, and I just wasn't seeing outcomes. And if I'm being fully transparent, when I saw YouTube begin to really ascend, I was happy for you all, and I was sad and devastated for myself. And I felt like a failure, and it triggered all my abandonment issues. I was like, they're gonna leave the podcast. I'm just gonna be here holding this damn podcast, but I'm supposed to be closing now. What the fuck?
Not damn podcast. Not damn
podcast. It wasn't even Damn Black Mamas. It was Damn Black Mamas. Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm just gonna be fully transparent. I realized that I had a codependent relationship with Thea. I felt that her success was my success. I always imagined us doing everything together. It was difficult. It was really, really difficult. And when I realized we had a codependent relationship, it was so shameful. I was so ashamed. I was ashamed that I couldn't show up for you all the way that I wanted to show up for your success.
You didn't feel her hiding? I could feel her. I could feel her hiding away.
Yes.
And the reason I knew it was because Crystal has a history, a tendency to go in
Yeah.
And when I didn't know that about her when we were early in our friendship, and she had gone in and disappeared. And I remember I had newly met Nikisha. She had moved to LA, and Nikisha's like, "Where's Crystal?" And I was like, "I don't know what's happening," And
Yeah.
I think we learned about each other then. Like, one, Crystal had to learn that like that does harm people when I disappear like that. I don't think she knew her impact and how much we all cared about her out here at the time. So she thought when she disappeared, nobody would feel anything. And we all felt it. At that point, she wasn't accountable for that impact. She didn't recognize it and didn't realize that it was causing harm. And then for me, it was not assuming that when a person is having a certain type of response, that it has something to do with what I did or did not do.
Because what I didn't want I didn't want to take away from you all's moments. It was like, I knew that I couldn't fully show up. I didn't want to show up in a way that devalued what you had accomplished. I had to deal with my own shit. Like I had to deal with that shit. I really had to like reconcile with myself and really see like what is going on here. And I valued the friendship so much that I didn't want to say or do something, especially in such beautiful moments, that damaged the friendship.
I remember thinking like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to choose to trust the friendship.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to know that when she gets to the bottom of this thing, she will come back and we'll have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew that something is not right. I usually don't feel this way.
Because you were thinking about with men.
You're
so independent when it comes to...
And so I was thinking, what is going on? And so creatively, I started trying to make these things happen. Like I tried to start to force these things to happen. I was like, I'm going to apply to these film fellowships and all this stuff. And none of it would pop.
Yeah.
And that was like, number one, you have a codependent relationship with your best friend. Number two, you have to decolonize your creativity, which means the proof that you are creative is not always in the doing and producing.
Absolutely.
You don't have to produce something to prove to people that you're creative. And shout out to Akilah Richards. I bought her book, Raising Free People, because I'm about to reparent myself.
Yes.
And decolonize my creativity.
And unschool yourself.
And so I really had to recalibrate. And so during the juice cleanse, it was really emotional. I remember one night thinking this was a light switch for me. I remember one night lying on my bed and said, I don't want to feel another thing. I don't want to have another feeling. Because when you're not putting stuff into your body to absorb your emotions, you're feeling everything. And that's when I realized you don't have an open heart. You think your way through everything. You push yourself through with your mind. And so I had to begin to do heart chakra work. So I began every morning journaling in the artist way, morning pages. Then I would do a heart meditation, and I would do a yoga movement that Stacey Mitchell taught me to open my heart. From there, I was able to release a lot of my creative approach. What I learned is that my writing, which I think I'm a phenomenal writer, and filmmaking is not even my true gift. My true gift is that I'm an intuitive and I'm a psychic. And I express those things through writing, through podcasting, through film. And so it has shifted my entire approach. And I was like,
mistaking form for content.
Right.
I can't remember who has that in a poem.
So I was like, let's get back to it. What did we used to do when we opened this podcast? We used to pray. Let's light incense, because we didn't know what we was doing. So we knew we needed guidance. And so I was like, what's the other thing? I realized time was a huge thing for me. I felt like I was running out of time because the industry tells you only have a certain window. So I had to recalibrate my relationship with time and creativity. So it's been a real journey of recalibrating, realigning. But from it, I know myself a lot better. I am now excited about our approach to the podcast. I'm choosing to slow down. I'm open to however this transforms. I'm not holding on so tightly. So it's been a journey.
Not today, bitch. Not today. God damn it, not today.
It's happening today. It's happening right now. Damn it.
It's just been a journey, and I'm grateful. For me, I've been creative all my life, but I have not really used the fertile ground of my imagination to imagine new and different things for myself. It's nothing to me to be intuitive and to be psychic and to read people. I never even thought of it as a gift. It just comes to me. But that's the real gift, and that there's imagination in that. I can see culture shift before it happens. That's why I was so adamant about starting a podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, I see, so it's been a journey.
What a journey, though. There's so many lessons in that. I hope the folks that are listening take from it that they can create, they can decide for themselves what creativity is and how they show up, and to just decolonize their views of living their fullest selves. Oh, there's so much there.
And not holding so tightly. After the juice cleanse, I had released all of that. Once I released, things started opening up with the podcast. So it just really showed me it's not in the doing and trying to make something happen. It's just really being intentional and operating and approaching in your gift and with your gift.
Yeah. I think there's a lesson too, and you're not alone in measuring yourself by how well those around you are doing. Not even how well they're doing, but what's happening for them, to them. That's a very, very common space, I think, to be in. And you feel a lot of guilt around that, right?
I was ashamed because I pride myself on, I'm the sister supporter. I'm the, you need a cheerleader, call Crystal. She'll make you feel like you can conquer the world. I pride myself on that. And I was so ashamed.
Well, I'm really proud of you. I know that wasn't easy, and you pushed through, and so much is opening already, as you've seen, is opening up for you because you are now open. It'll only continue to expand.
And the tension is in not accepting who you are. The moment the tension is not in anything else. It's just this, acknowledgement.
You would be like, Crystal, you have psychic ability. And I'd be like, girl, don't be telling people that, because people be calling me, asking me what's going to happen in their life. I don't want to be responsible for that. I didn't want to live in that.
That's it. Where the tension, the lack of acceptance.
Yeah.
The wanting it to go a certain kind of way, right?
Walking your gift.
Lakeisha, I told you what it was.
I don't remember that. Tell me what else is going to happen. Offline, though.
She said offline, don't tell me.
Case is bad.
Ooh, which brings me to Nikisha's part, y'all. That was a great segue.
I jumped in on it with the segues.
You have been. Nikisha, you were a private practice lactation consultant, sitting on several boards, advising public health programs, and 1,000,001 Facebook groups.
I was.
And I bet you get a lot more shit done out them groups.
She had Facebook fibroids.
Oh my God, it was so ridiculous. She had just finished a chapter in the lactation curriculum book, was working on your own book, was doing some diversity consulting for lactation speaking, had just launched Nikki and Nikki homeschooling. And of course, you're still an active duty military spouse. And we're managing all them goddamn Facebook groups. So which were you at? Are you where you thought you'd be? What had changed for you? You were also, I may say, resistant to deadlines and discipline. But go ahead.
That remains. However, the part about speaking, I was hoping to break into speaking. Is what it was at that time. We manifested that thing.
Let me tell you.
A sister had spent a whole year last year showing up and speaking and presenting, and sometimes double headers. Sometimes they're like, can you show up in the morning and then after lunch as well? And that's been really good. It's been really good to see that manifested. I feel like we called in abundance. We called in so many of those things happening that I wanted to happen. However, I had to let some stuff go. I don't even know what Facebook groups I'm in no more. I don't know.
But I think that helped to release some of that petty too.
So much.
Some of that went with that.
Junk, people fighting. I don't have time. Like, what? Y'all tag me if you need me and I might see it. I don't know. I am not like main manager over any of that social media stuff anymore. I am just kind of floating and focusing on my brand. And
like sometimes we feel like we have to be in those groups so that people could know what we're doing. But then we find out when we're in the groups, we're not even talking about what we're doing.
So the thing I still beat myself up about, and we've had this talk over and over. Thea's tried to help me come down off of this this high expectation. You said she's writing her own book. And that thing still haunts me. Just in the last couple of months, I read the journal entry where I was so excited about having approached this artist and asked him if I could use
I
his
remember
artwork
that.
on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And he said yes. And I was like, that man probably wondered where the book ever went,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it never came out. And I feel very disappointed in myself for not completing that particular goal. And over the years, I've talked about revisiting it. Maybe it's an ebook. Maybe it's a, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make fetch happen some kind of way, but it's still not here. But I've birthed so many other things instead. And my struggle is whether to let that go or if it's going to evolve into something new. I still don't know, but it bothers me that thing didn't get done.
It will.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Like it just, you'll wake up and it'll download and you'll have the whole fucking book outline.
I
And
hope so.
and it's really about meeting the right point in time. The desire is there, and that's great. And I've learned this too. Whenever I want something to happen that way, I just have to immediately release it and just say, when it shows up, I just want to be ready. And that'll be that. All the things you're doing right now are conditioning for the book.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part of documenting yourself, especially as a creative. This is a lesson I learned from Blood and Bahareke, is that writing the book is not about you sitting down at a computer and writing. That's the final phase.
Mm-hmm.
And so your job is to document this whole journey. So when you do get the desire to actually sit down, it's not as if you're trying to think of what to say. You have all of this documentation.
And some of that documentation is just being present in your body for the experiences. We don't think of our body as storing data in that way, but it really is. And so part of gratitude is not just acknowledgement, it's deep appreciation by enjoying the thing that you've been blessed with. So enjoying this time in an embodied way will actually be a way of documenting for the book as well. It's not just what you write down in these notes. It's also being fully present in your body, like your body's like a, you know, like a hard drive.
Well, that's why I love your Instagram so much, Thea, because it's the documentation of you in the moment. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's so great about that. Oh yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. One of the things we talked about on episode 15 was when, you know, kind of if you don't do it, somebody else will. They'll be getting that check kind of thing. And so, you know, it's difficult to know if it's still a thing you're supposed to do or if its time has passed, right? And it's been moved on to somebody else kind of thing.
So books are funny. I'll talk about books too, but books are funny. There's books I've written that I'm living. There's books I've written that are actually my history, my lineage that I didn't even realize. So the books that I've ended up writing are not just about information for the world. They've actually been blueprints or portals, downloads about me personally. And I was not thinking of them that way. So it's actually made me think of books as living things and not as these static documents.
You're just not ready. We really have to check in with ourselves and say, am I ready? And be honest. And if the answer is no, it's okay. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It just means not right now.
There's, I think there's a readiness. And when you are ready, there's an ease that accompanies it. Well. It's not been easy yet.
Here's my wish for you. It's my wish for all of us, to be honest, is one thing that Spirit's teaching me is I've positioned my life around what needs to be fixed. Problem solving. Where's the gap? Where's the lack? Where's the deficit? How do we fix it? And I'm retraining my brain to see what is and be in full celebration of that every day as my gratitude practice.
And you thought that the speaking engagements were going to come from the book. You remember that? You're like, I got to write this book so I can get these speaking. No.
Because you also thought something had to label you an expert.
It was going to give me credibility.
As though you didn't already have credibility.
When I sat down and thought about it, I've been speaking to corporations and organizations about equity, diversity, inclusion since the late 90s. Like, it showed up in every job I've had. So I had those chops. I had those skills that I didn't realize I had.
I think that's a creative thing. I think like, okay, doctors go to school to get certified. It's like every other thing needs a certification. They have something to say, I am certified in this. Like a teacher don't have to go out and write a book. They get a paper to say they're certified to teach.
And that's it.
A therapist, you get a paper, you take a test, say you certified to do this. But if you're an innovator, if you're creative, you're looking at that blueprint. So you feel like you have to produce something because nobody gives you anything to certify your expertise. It's like, I have to produce something to give to other people to certify that I am an expert in this. But
Yeah.
that's not creative and innovative flow. Most creatives are innovators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Ooh.
Well, and that's the thing.
Woo.
What did they always say? I don't do the research
Because
I'm ahead
of the research.
And if you don't understand it about yourself, you will always feel like you are out of sync when really you are just ahead.
That's a word.
Mm-hmm.
Why y'all preaching? Honey, y'all got it today.
So I'm going to read Thea's. Okay. So in episode 15, Thea hadn't written poetry in a long time.
Ain't that something?
I love the fact that I started with that.
The shade of it all.
She was writing young adult novels and had just finished a second rewrite for a novel planning to be shopped, signed with Distel, Godrich, and Barrett. Mm-hmm. She was a contributor to Black Girl in Ulm, working full-time on a college campus as a therapist, traveling, lecturing on decolonizing mental health, had just started All Heart, had begun working with Ebony Janice on Black Girl Mixtape, and she was launching the Get Right. Thinking of all
that
the
feels
things
so long
you
ago.
listed, I know. Thinking of all the things you listed that you were doing in that episode, what did you imagine you would be doing now? And how do you feel about where you are creatively?
So I feel like the word for right now where I am creatively is deep trust. I think creative for me is now ascending beyond the arts and beyond entrepreneurship into my priesthood. It's different to think to be a creative in that realm because you have to understand the impact you have on actual matter, not just like I write a book or I do a thing. It makes the things you're creating and doing and your behavior and your interaction with the world have to be different because you're really coming into a full understanding of how you can fuck some shit up, right? How you can impact things. And so one of the things that's happening is I do think in my creativity, a lot of my work focused on solving a problem. When I think about my poems and things like that, they always have to have a resolution. They always have to have a solution. I'm a therapist. And one thing Spirit has said to me recently is, you know, you're used to this identity of being like a fixer and you're not that. You are a keeper of time. So you start things, you set things in motion, and you also have the ability to know when they need to end and when they need to close and when they've run their course. And that is an important role to play in anything you're doing. Is all of that is important to cycle. And everything is cycle, everything is cipher, everything is circle. And also how to let things end. It requires a neutrality and a detachment. When I say now that for me, emotion was such a driving force in what I wrote, passion, rage, anger, now emotion it feels like data. It's just information. And so with that information, it tells me where we are in the cycle and where to open and close out the cycles, right? And so
that's probably related to eating no dairy because I'm far from that.
Well, I think it's related to healing.
Yeah.
We have a deep relationship and feel entitlement to emotions, right? That's the level that most of us get to. It's like being able to identify them, being able to acknowledge them, being able to communicate about them. But beyond that,
and we also judge them.
We judge them. But once you get beyond them, there's a space when you shift that relationship with emotions from this driving force to data. What happens is you realize that if you don't accept the data, if you don't process the data, then you stop the whole cycle right there. When the truth is the data is to inform what you're supposed to do next in the cycle.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in this transition between letting go of my attachment to emotion so deeply, even when horrible things are happening in the news, you should feel something. And like, what am I supposed to do with that data? What am I specifically supposed to do with that data? Right. Yeah. And so it really gets really interesting. So I feel like part of me is like releasing my attachments to things in a real way. It's requiring such a level of trust. I'll tell you the scary part is like, I finally got to a place where I'm breaking through in these places and I'm getting my name out there and I'm getting these things. And I have to really stay rooted in the fact that those things did not happen because of what I was doing. They happened because Spirit wanted them to happen. And now Spirit wants something else to happen. So I have to take that leap. So this concrete evidence Spirit has given me over the last 2 years to validate what I was doing. I feel like it's not removing that, but it's like, okay, detach from that so you can get to the real work. Right? If that sounds crazy, but you know,
it doesn't.
This has been the scaffolding, right? It's like release the scaffolding.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing though. Those things, yes, they happen because Spirit wanted them to happen. And they happen because of who you are. So there's predestiny and preordained. Predestiny is it's going to happen no matter what you do. There's nothing you can do to stop it. It's predestined. It is going to happen. Preordained is you came here as this person and you have to discover who that person is. So predestined, you don't have to do any work because it's already going to happen. Preordained is you really have to discover what that align. You really that's it. You really have to align to find out what that ordination is, right? So you aligned. Hey, Magic Makers. I just wanted to jump in here to let you know Nikisha had to leave us. So just Thea and I will be finishing out the episode. And to remind you that today is the last day to purchase your Magic Evermore box before the price goes up. We created this box to help Black women who are embracing their magic harness that energy. The items inside include a full Black Mama Magic card deck, incense from Smell Good Spa, a Magic Evermore picture frame, 4 manifestation crystals, Black Mama Magic postcards, gratitude jar, the herbs, jasmine, eucalyptus, and lavender, which represent healing, creativity, and liberation. And remember, when you purchase a Magic Evermore box, you're investing in yourself and you're investing in our platform to help us sustain, thrive, and expand. Now, let's get back to the magic, y'all. So you aligned, right? And I want to make that point because this is not outside of us. This is within us.
Oh, it's deep within us. It's like it's written in us.
Right. So I understand giving spirit is due. I really understand that. I want us to understand that.
The choice to align.
Right. Give spirit the due within us as well.
It is another transition. And, you know, I did get initiated. Well, I said we're going to start it off kind of slow and then it's going to start, you know, like really coming in. So what it's really making me feel like really releasing the work stuff and just being with the spiritual information because it's guiding me somewhere, y'all. And it's daily. This is daily. Like I sit daily integrating this new information, but also daily trusting, transitioning. I feel it even as I talk about it. There's like this new thing with my body where I can feel a tingling, almost like I'm leaving it.
So like you realize what you're doing, right? You're creating. When we're creating, we don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's unknown. And if we know what the outcome is going to be, we're not necessarily creating from a genuine, organic place.
It's the unknown. All the creating happens in the unknown. Yeah.
But the most powerful creating is, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm trusting.
And that's the sacred darkness too. That sacred womb, that sacred darkness, the unknown, the depths of it. I was telling somebody, it's like, this is what it's like. I love my yard. I never go out there at night because nighttime is scary. There's different critters and stuff like that. But I know magic happens at night because I'll go out in my yard during the day and the next day something has bloomed that wasn't there the day before, right? And the light reveals that, but the actual blooming happened in the night. And there's a part of me that wants to be available to witness what is happening in the darkest of these moments, right? Without fear, which is why the detachment from emotion, right? Without preconceived or pre-programmed ideas, but just to witness what is happening dark. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm going outside later and later and later. And I'm sitting with what comes up for me. Like this is again how we create our existence, right? The first task in the Gila, that the book that I wrote that I was talking about in that last interview, right? That was the Gila.
In episode 15.
That book is really about me and my lineage, which I didn't know until recently. And the first challenge she has is she has to be buried in the soil up to her neck and spend the night in the dark alone to cleanse herself, purge herself of all the things she's been taught to fear about the night and the dark. And she discovers a whole nother world exists there.
Here's what I see. In episode 15, you were creating outside of yourself.
Yes. Now I'm creating inside.
Right. So everything produced a product.
Absolutely true. Absolutely
And
true.
now that you're creating from within, instead of a product, you're the transformation, right? Because that's what creative is, right? We take this energy and we transform it into something that people can digest and alchemize and all of that. And that's basically what you're becoming. And we don't think about our spiritual relationships as fertile ground for creativity, right? Or fertile ground for creating. But if you read any spiritual manifesto, the Bible, the Quran, whatever, it's all about creation stories. And so that's what you're doing now. And what I want to say in particular about when you were writing the Gila, when you were writing
Malika,
what I want to say about those two things, and when they are released, people will see that was Black imagination. And when I say that, I mean, what we do with Black imagination is we bend time. With imagination, we reach back, bring the ancestors and that information forward, and alchemize it into an Afro future. So you didn't even realize that you were doing that, right? Because when people read those books, and I can't wait for you to tell the story fully, is the creativity is the product of our imagination. But when we give ourselves that space to imagine, we don't just tap into the future. We don't just tap into this things that nobody have heard of. We tap into our ancestral, and you named it before, we tap into our ancestral technology. So we're not just reaching forward and out into unknown worlds when we use our imagination. We're reaching back to information that was cut off from us or that we no longer remember. And this is what your books did. So those books couldn't be released the normal way.
No, they couldn't. That's why we have to be our own distributor as well, because they're actually portals, and we understand and we treat them and handle them. And so one thing I knew when I turned 40 was that my spiritual work was going to shift from outward to my body, from spirit being outside of me to unlocking where spirit resides within me, in my cells, in my ancestral data, in my spiritual data, and looking at the body as a library of all of this information. So that Black imagination, part of our role is to study fiercely the data in our own selves, and then to expand it. It's like if generations after generations have been experimenting on this thing, you can take that data and now experiment differently based on what they have shown you worked, what didn't work. And because of that, it has unlocked spiritual gifts, and it continues to unlock spiritual gifts that were normal. I have always said this. I believe early iterations of our existence as Black people, spiritual gifts were common. They were expected. Right. They were the norm. Speaking of Black Girl Mixtape, we're now working on a project called The People Could Fly, based on the Igbo landing, when the Igbo people coming over through the slave ship and then flew home. And there's actual testimony of them flying home, not a mass suicide the way that whiteness wrote it, but as an actual flight. And we're exploring, what did that trauma activate, right? Or deactivate to allow that to happen, right? Thinking of this very embodied spirituality, which is very feminine, very Oya, very Shakti, that creative womb body. You think about the inside of your womb is dark. It makes me think, like, have I only loved God in the light? So the things in our life and our existence that aren't pretty or folded neatly or working out as planned, how do we show up for that? Is it in a loving way? Because the things in that darkness produce what we then celebrate in the light, but it does not get the same level of love, praise, or appreciation.
And I think how we show up with it is by not thinking of creativity and not thinking of imagination as something only for the arts or for artists, but it's something that's accessible to all of us. So when I don't know, when I'm devastated or confused, I can say, I don't want to show up the way that I've been taught to show up because that doesn't feel good, or I want to experience this different. Then if we know that our imagination and our creativity are always accessible to us, then we can create the experience that we want. I do want to ask you though, based on the list that you named, did you think that you would be doing what you're doing now. So you were about to start all
I
hard.
don't think I knew I'd be running our own podcast. I don't think I thought of myself as an entrepreneur. And I definitely, at that particular moment in time, knew I wanted to be initiated, but I really didn't understand my priesthood. And I'm coming to understand it. One of the things I'm realizing is I'm not a writer. I'm a priestess who channels through writing. I'm a priestess who channels through her voice. That's one of the ways I divinate.
Ooh, that's one of the ways that I divinate. Ooh.
Because I remember when I was about to start shaping the shift, I was asking, well, yeah, how am I supposed to bring all these things together? Like there's all these ideas, there's all these thoughts, there's all these things. And she said, just speak.
And when we don't see the avenue as the creative genius,
or when we're too attached, like you said, to the artistic definition of it. So
for
me, I think what I'm struggling with right now is I'm a priest over more than I imagined. And there's a part of me, because that is so unknown, and it could go into places that I never thought of and imagined, and definitely feel like I have no control over. There's a part of me that wants to hold on to writer, artist, creative, entrepreneur, when I know every cell in my body is saying, you're a priestess of the unknown.
We want to hold on to those titles so that people can understand us and people can accept us.
Oh, for sure.
Because
I definitely feel like, the fear of being alone or loneliness.
Because that's the language that they know. The innovation is letting go of those so that people can know they can let go of those too. And the innovation is, if I let go of those and I'm still moving creatively, then people will see, no, I can access creativity even if I'm a doctor, that it's accessible. So who or what is your most powerful partner in creativity?
When I say spirit, there's a pantheon of energies that includes. In that pantheon, though, I'd have to say the strongest in terms of actual creating are ancestors. The other energies like clear paths or clear ways, or, but the ones who actually give me the stories, who give me that's usually ancestors. And it also depends on what I'm creating. When I'm creating more of the healing work, Oya is definitely a great, great partner in that. And then specific ancestors will show up depending on the thing, right? So Mother Mary shows up for gardening. My grandfather shows up a lot in ritual. So that whole pantheon is the source of my creativity at this point, which is very different than before, where it was coming from this place in me that wanted to fix things. But it's not that source anymore. It's like being available for the ideas. And then the other person I would say is Tamika. Here on this planet, I've been around creatives my whole life, but I haven't been with people who know how to love and support a creative. Tamika, a lot of what has happened is because Oya sent me Tamika. She is the structure that gives me such grounding and permission to go further into that Black imagination, in that she anchors me in that, so I don't have fear about going into that imagination. And then I'm going to say Mark, because I didn't realize the importance of, for me in this human form, knowing that I will be loved no matter how big I get. There's a part of me that would have stayed small. We talk about being adored, or being worshipped, or being loved. But really what I'm learning in this period of my life is, it's one thing to want it, it's a whole other thing to be ready to receive it, to be able to identify it, acknowledge it, and appreciate it in the form of enjoying it. And that goes for spirit too. Like, I feel like my spirit just went to spoil me at this point.
I love that love is one of your biggest partners in your creativity.
Because the truth is, no, I don't want to be lonely in that. I don't want to be out there creating lonely. I want to know that I have this grounding, this love. What I think Tamika has done for my power self, I think Mark has done for my vulnerable self, in a way that's like, I feel very confident in my vulnerability. I feel very confident in these spaces. So having fearless people, I think people who love you more than they fear you, because people can be afraid of your power, who love you more than they fear you, it's important.
So for me, my greatest partner in my creativity has been meditation.
Wow.
Because I have to slow down. I have to believe and accept and trust that I have the time to take to align with my divine self. And in episode 15, I talked about my resistant spirit. And meditation gives me the opportunity to talk to that resistant spirit. And it allows me to take the time to accept what I'm hearing. And so when I'm avoiding meditation, it's me not wanting to accept what the truth is and how I need to move. I know for sure when I take the time for that stillness and I meditate, my creativity and my imagination, the portals just open and the water is like the ocean. It's expansive.
And then you start to say, how
deep.
can my life be this way? How can I live my life this open? And I think that's where the ritual and the practice comes in.
Yeah.
Because you never want to close again. We do, because we're learning how to stay open permanently. I would never forget Oprah saying that stress is caused by you wanting something to be something other than what it is. When I really took that to heart, I realized that you can get rid of all the stress in your life by just accepting what is.
Deepak Chopra says that in the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. People waste most of their energy by not accepting what is.
Sometimes you don't even realize you're being resistant, but a good indicator, and this is why the embodiment part is important, is the tension. If you do that check in with your body and you see, where am I holding the tension? Like you found it in your heart area, then that is the indicator of, oh, I'm not accepting something for what it is. What is that? Right. The embodiment piece has been so big for me. I haven't been an embodied person in my practice. Not this intimacy with body, but it allows me to see where I'm holding the resistance and the tension, and to actively accept through radical acceptance. But, Tara Brach was a great book too for that.
My biggest partner on this plane is my mother, who never gets in the way of what I do or judges it. Rashad, who created the space for me to create, and my mothering and Black motherhood are my biggest partners, because Black motherhood in general is inspiration to me. But on a personal level, Black mothering is a space of deep revelation for me.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Like it's, oh my, yeah, no, because I'm going through a phase now where I'm looking at my kids prepare to leave my home. And what does that mean for me, right? That I'm shifting from this caregiver to a different role in their lives. But that also gives me permission to change who I am to the world, right? That aligns with the idea of like, oh, you're not a fixer. You are a conductor of these cycles, right? And that letting go of the role of caregiver is coming at the same time of the awareness of my priesthood. I think is very, very interesting.
That's divine timing.
That's divine timing. And teasing that out. Same tingly feeling I get is there when there's something going on in my mothering that I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to sit and watch this work itself out. What was the most powerful moment in that episode for you?
Oh God, it's so hard to choose. Okay. So the 7 steps.
Yeah, I was going to
was powerful. The 7 steps was powerful.
I was going to say that.
Like that, don't give them the whole 8. Just resonated with so many people. But the 7 steps was powerful. I would say it tied with me hearing myself say, when I released how these things were going to happen, when I released the how, because I was talking about, like, I was in South Carolina, I wanted to be a film producer, and I felt like I had to move, I had to do all of this stuff in order to make that thing happen. Like I had to make it happen. And when I let go and said, this is what I want to do. And so hearing myself say that to myself now, who was just in a space of
questioning all of that,
nothing's happening for me, I'm giving up on everything, and hearing myself say that brought me to tears and was like, yes, Crystal, just release the how and just be open to however it evolves, and trust that it will still do the mission.
It will still do all the things. I think for me, the most powerful moment was to revisit the idea of reintroducing myself.
That makes sense.
I think that's definitely where I am.
Was that the first?
That's the first step.
That was the first step.
Introduce yourself to your family, to your, and I did it as an artist during that time, and I'm doing it as a priest now. And
the evolution.
I've been thinking about that. So when you in Ifa, the role, and I'm sure this is true in any other practice, that The role of a priest is to help walk people from their humanity to their divinity. This is the thing about having to like change your relationship with emotion, because if I'm upset with you, I can't see that path to guide you, even during those moments. I have to stay neutral so that somebody can guide, right? And that's the role I've chosen. I've chosen how to take people from these very human, vulnerable, scared spaces into walking in their power, no matter what's happening around them or who's doing what, right? That is really the goal. And the way you move people from that is staying with them and seeing their divinity, even in the moments that they don't, and you maintaining yours so that you can guide them through that moment in the most divine way possible. And so even thinking about responding to things like what's going on in Palestine, what's going on in Colombia on my Instagram, there's a way I would have talked about it last year that I feel a different responsibility to talk about it a certain way now. And so I see it now, instead of just like reintroducing myself to the family, which my daughter wrote the most beautiful thing on Mother's Day. She said, the first thing she said in her caption was, I am Oya's daughter. And it's so powerful because I am Oya's daughter, but that told me she sees me as Oya. And more people around me address me as Oya. The reintroduction, I think, for me right now is to the public who has known me as the MOA from their poetry. And I'm all those things, but that, don't mistake, again, like we say, form for content, right?
Yeah.
That is the vessel, but the content is Oya.
And I think that speaks to giving yourself permission to evolve. And I think if we look at creatives, we don't give them permission to evolve. It's like we want them to evolve. We say we want them to evolve. And
Activists either.
Yeah. Oh, no, not activists. Not at all. And then when we see them evolve, we judge it. We don't believe it. We say it's fake. We say it's for the money. So it's like, we really don't want that. We want people to stay in the safe box that we have them in. And so I think allowing yourself to evolve, I think it just expands creativity. It is creative.
And that title encompasses all the others. But it's kind of like when we first chose creative, it was because we use different mediums, right? Now it's like priestess is the word because it uses different mediums. One of those mediums is as a creative, another one is as a healer, another one is as a mother, another one is as a, right? So it's like, again, the same reason we chose creative, which is what we were talking about in that episode, is the same reason priestess is now calling me, because it allows me to hold more of what I am and what I do.
And we chose creative intentionally. We didn't choose artists because we wanted people to see creativity in everything. I can be creative in whatever I do. That leads to my next question. So why is Black imagination important to Black mothers?
We are the vessels that God chooses to create through. And that's a period. So everything that has been created on this planet came through whatever type of womb of a Black body. I mean, everything. And so the feeding and nourishing of Black imagination only allows us to have deeper communion, relationship, and intimacy with God through what we create. So we can create bigger and in a more expanded way. And in that, we see God, right? I see so much God in Blood and Bahareke, so much God in this podcast and Black Mamas in Shaping the Shift. And the more we allow ourselves to imagine, the more God we get to experience. And I think that's what it comes down to.
The more we allow ourselves to imagine, the more of God we get to experience.
All creation is motherhood, and all infinite creation is Black motherhood, because Black is infinite.
Deeply expansive.
It never ends.
For me, I think that Black imagination is important because our healing, our resistance, and our liberation cannot mimic white supremacy. It allows us to lean into the possibility of the unknown. So I don't know.
And trust it.
So just because we don't know what something looks like, Black imagination allows us to trust and believe, it can still happen. I have no idea what a world without police looks like.
But I trust it.
I trust it. I believe that it can happen. And so when we're triggered by words like defund the police, abolish the police, we say no. That resistance is mimicking white supremacy.
I'm writing notes.
If we say yes to that, we are leaning into the unknown. And then that opens the portal to our imagination. That's when we can really dream and create a new world. I'm rereading The Healing Wisdom of Africa. And in it, he says, when the French or the Europeans left Africa, the new governments were all Black, but they basically copied the constitutions of those European countries. They didn't bring in any of the indigenous people's traditions. They didn't try to tap into knowledge or languages that were lost. They set up their governments the same way that the Europeans had set up their governments. So basically, the colonizers never left.
Right. Because their way of life.
They just, Black people were just now in charge of the colonization. And that's what we don't want. And that's why Black imagination is important. So when you hear abolish the police, or I'm an abolitionist, I don't believe in jails, or, defund the police, and you get scared and you feel resistance come up, or they should have said it another way, then ask yourself.
I was like, because they're like, what is your plan? I was like, I just want the money to imagine.
Yeah.
I want the freedom to imagine that, so that whatever I imagine, I can instantly do.
Yeah. The resistance is you not leaning into your imagination.
Yeah. Because if you can't see it and it's not already there, you don't trust yourself and therefore others to be able to imagine and create that.
And you said this in the episode. You said there are no neutral thoughts. We are either creating
Course in Miracles
or destroying. Right. Course in Miracles. And so when you feel resistance to something, ask yourself, what am I destroying whenever I become attached to the how? We can get all the Black people in office we want. Everybody who we want to be in office or win an election can win. But if we can't imagine, we're not going to do anything except replicate what we already see.
Can I close with this piece that I think ties with what you were saying?
Girl,
it made me think of it. That piece you just said about really understanding that piece of our creativity and that it's not neutral, but also that if we don't know it, we'll mimic something, right? That is not serving us. So this piece is called Ebo. I think this piece to me is a part of the healing process in reclaiming my Black imagination. So this piece to me definitely signifies the moment the healing began for my Black imagination. And it started with ancestors, which goes back to what you were saying earlier, right? About that lineage heals in real time. Because that's a cycle too. The ancestors being able to give us and us to give to them, that gets disrupted. When we say we don't talk about our ancestors or don't worship our ancestors, whatever, that gets disrupted. So it's called Ebo. As Awo sits with legs parted in V formation, Opun nestled between knees, fingertips dusted with gold, the chants send a charge through my spine, down my limbs, into my hands and feet. Ancient incantation, ancient ritual. It's hard to believe this was ever common among us. He places Ikin in my hands, and I immediately doubt my worthiness the way my country has taught me to, particularly in the presence of God. But their curses can't sustain here. The Awo has a kind face and has undoubtedly seen this many times, the lost heirs of West African culture making their way back to this mat through the grime of anti-Black, anti-African propaganda, searching for their fountain of truth, or at the very least, their family. So I hold all 16 Ikin in my palms, cupped tightly, as if to say, I am here, estoy aquí, mowani bi. Silence is the language of the kidnapped. Language is the first element we seek to reclaim. I imagined the Awo's chants ascending from my mouth, hoping spirit would know I was the one who requested this portal be opened, wishing I could speak for myself, hating my flaccid tongue. His question snatched me out of my self-loathing. Have you ever given offering to your paternal ancestors? Martin, Burial, Louise, Edna, Ivan, Teofanza, Martin Sr., Clara, William, Clara, Ivan Sr., forgive me, discúlpame, Pele. When the awo asked me for your names, I didn't know them. I'd never asked about the accent slipping from my father's tongue or the origin of the music he blasted every weekend with its hollowed drums and rebellion-laced lyrics, forgive me. I was raised by my country to wait for permission. I knew your enslavers' names before yours: Balboa, Bolivar, Hawkins, Campos. This is why your children don't know who you are. They don't know who they are. It isn't because they don't miss you deeply. They aren't raised to recognize you as the restlessness in their bones or to receive blocked pathways as your protections. I didn't know. I am one of the lost ones. I can't explain it well, my Egun. I have yet to find the words to describe the shame I felt when the Awo asked me your names and I stumbled, searched my mind desperately as a hole widened in my gut. To not know the names of your ancestors is to be gutted. To be gutted is to have your sense of direction removed and replaced with someone else's, someone who doesn't love you. When you came to me in my dream days later, standing in front of me, each with half of my father's face, I called you by your name. I would never again be caught unprepared to greet you. Your names were the passcode to my middle passage. You told me to claim what was mine. Transported me from my world to yours, from monocultural to bicultural, from Inglewood to Pedro Miguel, African American, Afro-Antillian. Have you ever given offering to your paternal ancestors? Yes, I will. Yes, I have at last.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you ever think you would be writing, distributing a book of your own poetry?
No, I don't even know if this is poetry. I don't know
Right.
what. I always describe it as a hymnal.
Mm-hmm.
It feels just like my soul testifying, but not just my soul, their souls, our soul. You know, it just feels like testimony. And there's rhythm to it sometimes, and there's rhyme to it sometimes. I never imagined myself writing in this format again at all, in any format other than novels. I thought I was going to just completely move into writing novels, and to write something so unorthodox felt like the most at home, even beyond the poetry and the novels, to break the rules, to have no rules, to just write it and write it upwards and backwards and change the font. Like all of that felt like, oh, this is how I write. And the only reason I didn't know it is because I didn't know I could just write. I thought I had to write a certain way.
And I think that it's divine that, because you had gone to Panama before by yourself. And I think that it's divine that this came to you after you went as a mother with your daughters.
With my children. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I will never forget the gift. I mean, if just a lot, you know, you think that every day there's always something to be grateful for, but we really don't sit in that shit the way we should, because the fact that my ancestors gave me the opportunity to see my two daughters standing in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
And that you gave them that opportunity. They wanted to see that. And by bringing
them
them
back there.
by bringing them, you healed them.
I can't even explain how I saw their minds and their children's minds and the children's children. I saw generations who would never again be limited.
Well, Magic Makers, that's the end of another ride. As always, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to mark your calendars for Black Mama Creative Week, the last 7 days of June. That's June 24th through June 30th. Our theme this year is decolonizing creativity, manifesting our dreams through healing, creativity, and joy. Again, we kick off on June 24th. Remember to check out our show notes on our website to register for our workshops for that week. And be sure to order your Magic Evermore box by today, June 1st, because the price goes up tomorrow. We only have a limited amount, so don't miss a moment of the magic and order now. Those links and any other links mentioned in this episode will be on our show notes on our website at dimmblackmamas.com. And we also have some explanations or definitions in our show notes of things that were mentioned in this episode, like Oya, Shakti Energy, and also we mentioned some books. So we have those listed in our show notes as well. So be sure to check those out on our website, Dim Black Mamas. That's DEM Black MAMAS.com. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for sharing. The mothership takes off again on June 15th. Until then, we wish you expansion and fun. Namaste. Namaste, Black people. Namaste.